Hello, welcome to Practical C++ Programming. My name is Zach, and in this tutorial we will be going over function overloading. Function overloading is an interesting topic, and I find it pretty easy to understand once you get your head wrapped around it. It's not too difficult, and even though we probably won't be using it in our final Hangman project, it's still something I think you should know as a beginner, so that when you see it, you understand what is happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a function that says, void print salary, okay? And this function is going to take in an integer value, and we'll make that function down here, void print salary, int x, and we'll basically just say cout end line x end line. And if we run that, we'll get just what we expect. We'll say print salary, we'll say 20,000. When we run it, it'll just print out 20,000, which is exactly what we want. But what happens if we want to use this same function, but we want multiple ways to do it? For instance, we'll say something like cout enter your salary, and we'll say cn salary, and salary could be, for instance, we don't know if they are going to enter a string salary, or we'll say, for right now, we'll say it's an int salary, and we'll pass in salary right here. So whenever they enter it, it'll get put into the function. So I'll say enter your salary, we'll say 2,300, and it'll print out 2,300. But what if, we're having, in this function, it won't really make sense because you have to declare your data type, meaning whatever you declare, they're going to have to enter in anyways. But what if you have, whenever you start programming an object-oriented design and different types of programming architecture, you're going to see that sometimes you don't know what kind of data is coming in. And even though that won't be the case here, we're going to pretend like it is so that you can go ahead and get your head wrapped around the whole concept. And so let's assume that someone enters in a double salary all of a sudden, and when we run it and we enter the salary, they enter in something like that. Well, it's only printing out this because it was supposed to take in an integer value. Well, what if we really wanted to print this value? But we can't with this print salary function because it's only asking for an integer value. Or better yet, what if we wanted to say double salary and pass in a string, and when it says enter your salary, now it doesn't even run because you can't pass in a string at all. But what if we did want to pass in a string and have them type out $2,300 as a word? Well, to do that, we can solve this problem by something called function overloading. And to do that, you simply make multiple prototypes of the same function but with different parameters. For instance, we'll say void print salary, and we'll say string. We'll make two. We'll make double, and then we'll say void print salary string. And then we'll come down here, we'll copy this, and we're going to reprint them, and we're just going to change these. So this one will take a string value, and this one will take a double value. Well, now we have the same function, but we have it overloaded with different parameters. So we can expect pretty much anything to be inputted. So now, before, when we got an error when we ran this, we can run it again and print salary. We can actually enter in $2,300, and it'll say 23. And I know it didn't say $100 because technically we didn't do get line. We're going to go ahead and fix that real quick just so I can show you. And I know you've seen this before in the previous tutorial, but probably not with cn. So we'll say cn with getLine instead of before we did something like output file or input file. and then we'll store it in salary. And now when we run this, we can say, you know, $2,300. I'll say $2,300. But that same token, you know, we can change this to a double, and it'll use that same overloaded function. And before, it'll use this function, and before, whenever we used, so let's see what's going on here. It says cout double salary, print salary, function call to double, and I believe, let's just try to do this, I believe getLine's only going to work with string values anyways, so we'll say salary, and when we run it, we will say 2300.0246 or whatever, or 0246. When you run it, it will actually get the whole value. And though it didn't do 46, it's because right now it's on default value of double precision point is 0.02 after the decimal. That's where the double comes from. If we actually changed double to float, which is the same thing as a double. Basically, they're both decimal point values, just with they take up different bytes in memory. When we run it, let's see here. Let's make sure we have our prototype wrong up here. Change that to float. I'm just kind of showing you how to overload different types of data. When you enter your salary now, 2300.02345. Again, we get the same thing, and I'm thinking that maybe it's because it's defaulting to a floating precision point of 0.02, and let's just check that out real quick. Let's say, you know, cout set precision to 4 fixed, and let's see if that fixes it. And we don't have IO manip involved, so let's go ahead and include that. Let's run that. And there we go. So now we're getting the 4 precision points. So we had to specify to set the precision point of 4 after the decimal because it's defaulting to 2, no matter whether it's a float or a double data type. But needless to say, you know, this tutorial was more about overloading functions, and that's basically what we did. We can enter in, now when we run it, I know that, you see, when we're running it, we know that it's a float coming in because we had to declare it here. But what I want you to understand is that in future classes, when you get into object-oriented programming, you may not know what kind of data is coming in. And that's where function overloading is important, because oftentimes you don't know if a string or a float is going to be passed into a function. And so you have to prepare for all scenarios. So that's it for this tutorial. In the coming tutorials, we're going to go ahead and start building our Hangman game and conclude this course. Thank you for watching.